Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. Arsenal 2 and it's Wolves 0. I nearly forgot their name because actually it just felt very familiar. The same old Arsenal, but that's not a bad thing. You know, I watched Man United last night, watched Liverpool in the first half. Start of the season, obviously teams aren't ready to go, they're not firing, but this is where the credit has to go to Arsenal because they looked so familiar to what we've seen last season and maybe a little bit of the season before. Defensively strong, clinical, well organised, a well-oiled machine. And this is why this season needs to be so important for Arsenal, because I tell you what, they might not have Premier League trophies, but what they are doing at the start... Look, I'll tell you now, if you had a good season last season and somebody said to that manager, guess what? You won't reinvent the wheel. You'll just go from the end of last season into the start of the next season, from the very start, playing the same way. That manager will go, oh, yes, please. We're going to have 3 months off. We're going to buy some players. We've got players going to the Euros, players going to the Copa America, and you're telling me the first game of the season, we're just going to seamlessly go from the end of last season into this season. Yes, please. Because there's countless examples of that not happening for teams who were good one year and not good the next, or can't get going at the start of the season from the momentum of the last season. And I think that's the impressive thing for me for Arsenal today, is it's like watching Arsenal from last season. That consistency, that understanding, they're in the groove already. And I tell you as well, they might not have won the Premier League last year, but that sort of form, it's amazing they haven't won the Premier League. We know why they haven't won the Premier League, because Man City are a juggernaut and they're dominating this league. But if they didn't exist, I think Arsenal would be winning Premier Leagues, because the way they perform, the way they understand each other, is just magnificent. And also, Saka today, I don't know why he gets critics. I never understand it. I mean, I got the assist, the cross was magnificent. Fair play to Havertz, he leaps well, but the cross is brilliant for the first goal. The second goal, he'd had a shot like that in the first half where Saka got down and made the same save. This time he can't do it because the power beats him. Just a fantastic performance from Saka. And, you know, he had what was probably not quite a quiet Euros, really, considering the talent that he is. He sort of got lost, didn't he? You know, in the Kane debate and the Bellinghams and the Fodens. Saka's there on the wing, not really being spoken about. Comes back to Arsenal, familiar surroundings, in a team that gets him, in a platform where he can, you know, express himself. And, you know, probably one of the players of the weekend already. Absolutely fantastic performance. But they're just so impressive, Arsenal. And I think that, you know, I would have always said that they would beat Wolves today. And I don't think Wolves came out in the second half looking that bad. I think that Arsenal deserved the win. There is no doubt. But at the start of the second half, for about 20 minutes, Wolves were looking okay. There was a brilliant save from Reya in the first half. But if you're an Arsenal fan, you're absolutely ecstatic with that result, because it's the sort of result that, you know, in years gone by, maybe you draw that. Even worse, maybe you lose it. But it's that ruthless efficiency and consistency that Arsenal have built now, which I think some people think might disappear, but they've worked so hard to get there. Their defence, I mean, the clean sheet, as I said, Reya makes the save, but defensively so strong, and that defence starts from the attack and the midfield as well. They don't concede many goals, and straight away it's a clean sheet in the first game of the season, and that's not a given in the Premier League. Getting clean sheets is not a given. They go to Villa next week. Obviously, a lot of us are going to be watching that watch along with Villa and West Ham. That's a very tough place for Arsenal to go next week. Then they've got Brighton the following week. So, look, every game in the Premier League is difficult, and that makes it doubly difficult to be consistent. But I think with Arsenal, they just have that consistency. They have that belief and togetherness. Look, you see Declan Rice going off at the end. I'm sure it won't be anything bad, but that sort of thing is the only thing that I think I look at Arsenal and go, could that derail them? Because the only thing they don't have with Man City is the experience of winning and the squad depth. And those two things are actually quite big when it hits May. But they missed out on the title by 2 points. They conceded less goals. They scored over 90 goals like Man City did. They're not far away. And there is this, I don't know, you sense it in the media. You sense it sometimes that they almost think Arsenal have scammed their way to being title contenders for the last 2 years. They really haven't. Like, I think last year they were way better than the year before. But starting that season like that, I saw United do it sometimes, but very rarely actually. United, even under Sir Alex, we'd start the season badly you know, we wouldn't get going until sort of September, and we really didn't get going until after Christmas. But the amount of times United would start the season rusty, players not quite firing. The thing that impressed me about Arsenal today was just how similar they were to last season in the first game of the season. It's really difficult to do that. It's really difficult. You know, after an international break, you don't want to play away because your players have been away for a week or two. You have one training session, you're playing away from home, and everyone's like strangers again. Imagine what it's like when you've had 2 or 3 months apart. And for Arteta to have that Arsenal team playing like that, I mean, obviously they're playing at home, you've got the crowd behind you, but they didn't really show what I will expect from a lot of teams over this Premier League weekend, where it's glimpses, not quite fluidity, misplaced passes, little bit of misunderstanding. Didn't really see any of that. And that, you know what? I said this about Chelsea replacing Pochettino. I said it about Man United keeping Ten Hag. I said it about Liverpool bringing Slot in and not dismantling that team. And there's a lot to be said about continuity this season. I think the teams that do well will be the teams that focus on continuity, which will give them consistency. And that Arsenal team, as I said, same old Arsenal, ridiculously consistent. And yet again, look, harder games to come. Villa next week away at Villa Park. Very, very difficult. Looking forward to that. But you'd fancy them to go and win because I think Arsenal have earned that reputation now, which some people think still isn't a thing, where when they play teams, they're so well organised, they're so good defensively, they create so many chances, they believe they're going to beat people. I think the only team, maybe two, but the only team really is Man City, where Arsenal maybe go into it and go, they're a bit better than us. And that's probably for me a psychological block because they, you know, it's illogical that Arsenal keep getting better every year, but still maybe look at Man City and go, But Man City are the team to beat. There is no doubt about that. But very, very impressive. Very impressive, Arsenal. Without reinventing the wheel. Like some people were saying, I wasn't that impressed with them. But they were just very similar to last year. And you know, why do they need to reinvent the wheel? They just need to get margins. That's all they need to do. And you know, if they can keep what they did last season and Man City drop a bit, they'll win the league. If they can find a little bit more and Man City don't, they'll win the league. Very interesting. They've got to go off. You've got to win nearly every game. They know that. And they played like a team that intends to go and do that. But I thought Saka was fantastic. He'd be my man of the match in that game. Wolves, I think he'll have a good season, but a mid-table season. But Arsenal, up and running. We wait and see what happens against Villa next week. But, you know, many people would have predicted 2-0. I'm up and running in my Super 6. I did. But how well they played was very, very impressive. Get your comments in below. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe. I'll speak to you on the next one.